Good morning, Kate. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Just trying to come off of my buzz from the convention last weekend and try to put everything together and get back to regular life, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm still not there yet.
Right. I think it takes a couple of weeks to actually get back into, you shift out of convention mode and now we're more into campaign mode moving into election season. So,
Mm-hmm.
we'll definitely all be shifting gears for the next few days.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to take a few minutes of your time. I really appreciate you coming on and ask you a few questions. First off, congratulations on your win. You were elected for a second term to treasurer. Congratulations for that. And
Thank you.
I've got just a couple of questions I want to ask you, and then I'll let you get back to going back to your business. The first one, just kind of a fun question that I wanted to get an idea for how you handle things in your life. So it's a little bit of an icebreaker question, if you will. But let's say you woke up tomorrow morning and you had 10,000 emails in your inbox. How would you handle that?
Honestly, I sort through them through priority. Like, if it's something that needs my immediate attention, and then I kind of go from there. Um, and I don't necessarily, obviously, 10,000 emails in one day. You're not getting all done in one day. So yeah, I mean, just flicking through them and prioritizing them. Um, and just handle them one at a time. And then if it's easier and I can just get it off the plate, then tackle that, even if maybe it's not a priority, but just something that I can easily get done. And that's how I tackle stuff.
Kind of an unrealistic expectation, right? Like, how do you eat an elephant, right? So
Right, exactly.
one bite at a time. So since this is your second full term as the treasurer, um, during this time we have had some of the most, if not the most, successful years in our history as a state affiliate. What specifically do you attribute that to?
I think we had a real big change in culture for us. I think having an office of treasurer that was transparent and trustworthy really brought in more donations. And because we had more donations, we were able to experiment more on projects and really put the tools forth that we always wanted and we always had the idea for, but we couldn't really fund. And that changed. That changed in the last 2 years. I think people are also really fed up with the way things have been going. I mean, COVID helped our cause. People were really upset about government shutdown and the encroachment in their lives and in their wallets. And I think we just had the perfect storm for Libertarian Party of Texas. I think a lot of things contributed to our success in the last term.
Is there anything specifically you did maybe a different way of analyzing our financial records or a different way of approaching it, from an accounting perspective that
Yeah. I am not an accountant. I mean, I took accounting, many of the accounting classes when I was going through my business degree. But I've had a couple of small businesses, so obviously I had to do the bookkeeping and the accounting for that. I dove right in. I didn't have any real training in the transition of becoming treasurer. It took me months to analyze the books and how things had been done, and then I change things how I thought needed to be done. I think because I really committed myself to this role, I found a lot of errors and I found a lot of places where we needed to cut the fat. And initially we did that. I was very transparent too in the state of where our books were and where our accounts were. And because of that, I think people took a bit more urgency towards it. Like our executive committee took a bit more urgency. Our donors realized, I think transparency and integrity was a big part of showing the real state of things when I first got in. And I think it made people think and get more involved to fix the situation.
Awesome. And during that time, you had a plethora of accomplishments, I'm sure. What personally do you think was, for you, in that 2-year term, what stood out as your personal biggest accomplishment?
Well, my personal or my treasurer accomplishment?
So I guess personally to you, as in the role of treasurer, what was the biggest accomplishment?
Honestly, getting the books clean, cleaning up the books, trimming the fat, canceling things that we had no business paying for. And then again, communicating the transparency of really what the health of our financial situation looked like. I really think, to me, that is my biggest accomplishment, because looking at the past terms and the past books and everything, things just weren't quite right. And I love puzzles. Like, I love puzzles, and I actually like math. I'm one of those libertarian nerds that loves math. And and it took months. It really took months. And I didn't just dive in from the day I took office. I even cleaned up the books from the year prior. And the reason why I did that was because I needed to know really where we were going to go. And you can't really know that until where you've been. And so I ended up cleaning all that up, and yeah, I mean, that was a big feeling of accomplishment, to the point where now, when I run our reports, when I do the books, and everything matches to the penny, and I haven't had a single month where even a penny is displaced, like, that just makes me feel so giddy. And then being able to report that to our executive committee and to our donors gives me a really big sense of accomplishment and pride.
That OCD definitely kicks in right when you're trying to get to that last penny, and you're like, I got it. It was perfect. So I can see how that is a big accomplishment. In the same vein, what would you say was your biggest failure? Is there something that, if you could go back and do it over again, you would probably do something differently?
Yeah, I do. And it actually kind of came to a head and reared its ugly head at convention. I really was ambitious and wanted to push for more security for our officers and for our donors and for our donations. And so I had brought forth a bylaw proposal that allowed for us to kind of tighten things down and know who really was going to be handling our funds in the future. And I was also personally ready to go through that test phase, that background test phase, to know who really is going to have the keys to the kingdom. And we've seen with other affiliates and in history and in recent history, unfortunately, where embezzlement and fraud has occurred. And LP Texas is too important. Our donors are too important. Our projects and our mission is too important to allow for that to happen. So I did have a bylaw proposal. It did not receive a lot of great support from the delegation, but this is where I feel better about it. It was my first full term as treasurer. I had a lot on my plate. We really changed the culture of the party this last term. We really changed the culture of the office of treasurer, and we developed so many things. And I think I was just biting off more than I really should have chewed. But the great thing is after the proposal was voted down by the delegates, I had a ton of people come up to me and was like, hey, I voted it down, but I really want to see this pass in the next convention. Here's some tips. And I even had professionals come up to me and said, you might want to approach this at a different angle. And they were like, you know what? I want to help you because I think this is important. So I have a whole bunch of support who are going to be, professionals and the like, who are going to be playing devil's advocate. But the ultimate goal for all of us is to secure our donors and our donations, and making sure that we have the right people that are holding the keys to the kingdom. So I've got a challenge, and it's going to be I accept that challenge, and I want to bring a proposal to the delegates that they are really going to want to get behind and be like, duh, we need to do this, and this is perfect. So I've got 2 years to figure that out.
And I wouldn't beat yourself up too much. I think getting a room full of libertarians to agree on taking any sort of group security, precautions is probably going to be a large hill to overcome. So I wouldn't beat yourself up too much over not getting that one passed. Along those lines, though, of your biggest failure, what would you say is going to be your biggest challenge in the next term?
I think the biggest challenge, because I've got the books, I've kind of got the everything flowing the way it needs to when it comes to the usual duties of treasurer. One of the big things I want to take on now is I want to grow a robust financial department, because the treasurer ends up heading the financial department. And
Okay.
that's what I really want to do. I need to get more people in. I want a couple of keepers. I want to be able to hire a part-time accountant or an auditor. And I really want more hands, trusting hands with the numbers, because, the more eyes that are on something, the better off it is for the organization. So that, I think that's going to be one of my biggest challenges, because we are in politics, and people play their political games. And when you're talking about financial health of an organization, you really need to find people who have their true intention is just integrity, and making sure that the party is healthy. And then we can argue projects and we can argue stances from there. But if we don't have the health of our funds and our accounts, we're not going anywhere. And that was actually my original motivation for running for treasurer back then, was, you really don't know the true success of an organization until you get your hands on the books. Full stop, period. It doesn't matter how likable your CEO is, or how
Sure.
much the employees like having a water slide in their lobby. If the funds aren't there and if they're not healthy, then you're not going to be successful, period. And I want to bring more people in. And it's kind of the second point to that was, not just for the health of the organization, but we need to recruit people who are coming in who know nothing or next to nothing about being a treasurer, whether that's campaign, county treasurer, or even state affiliate treasurer. And we need to bring more people in, and we need to educate them, because the more people who are educated, the more quality people we're going to attract for this position. And I really think at the national, state, and even county level, the office of treasurer is really downplayed. And I think it has become a problem. It really has. People are like, oh, give me your money, but well, what's it for?
Right.
Transparency and integrity are really big, and the office of treasurer can actually bring that out.
And if you were to tell the delegates going into this next term, these are some measurable goals that I personally would define as being successful. And I know the development department really works on the raising of the funds,
Yeah.
but for you, uh, as the treasurer, what are there any sort of like measurable goals you could share with the delegates that would be, indications of success for you? Obviously being
Obviously,
able to be audited and passed, that's a good obvious.
yeah, that was a really big one that we had for this last term. And I was very, very nervous when we got our TEC audit. And oh, whew, goodness gracious, when I got that email, I was, my nerves really shot up through the roof. The great thing is after in communication with them for about 24 hours through the audit, they came back, TEC came back within 48 hours. It was like, you passed, you're good. And I was like, oh, yay. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, because it'd been years since we had been audited. So yeah, obviously, dotting our I's and crossing our T's is a really great measure of success. The health of our bank accounts, and yes, the
Just being in the
development
black.
department. Yeah, being in the black, coming into this term in the black is is so exciting. And I think too, like, the ability to experiment in projects that we've always wanted to do, whether they succeed entirely or if they're a massive fail, but we've learned from our trying, is another measure of success. And we did a lot of that in this last term, and I know we've got ideas for that in the next term. So I'm excited to see what we learn and what we accomplish.
Awesome. So you had mentioned, how vital and how important a healthy treasurer is, both national, state, and county affiliate. If you were talking to a brand new affiliate treasurer, or somebody who's struggling, maybe, is there any specific advice you would give that treasurer on how to, improve their process or improve what they're doing for their affiliate?
Well, first off, I want to say to all treasurers out there, whether you're a campaign, state affiliate, or county, good on you. Usually the office of treasurer, and in my experience, not just here in Texas, but in talking to lots of other treasurers, it's 1, 2, 3, not it, right?
Right.
Good on you. You have done something that a lot of people, no matter how much they talk, weren't brave enough to do. You wanted to take on a challenge, and you should really, really, really need to be proud of yourself for that. Take that and go forward with it. The next thing I'm going to say is don't be afraid to reach out for help. And I think libertarians sometimes have this intelligence ego that
You don't
sometimes is
say.
hard for us. I know, right? That sometimes we have a hard time leaping past, like we know everything, right? We know everything about liberty and what's good for this country and what's good for people and our families, but we have a really hard time of letting go when we make a mistake. And I think you really need to do that. Like, be transparent with your executive committee, and be brutally so. Ask for help. There's other intelligent people out there who are just as passionate as you, and they want to see the success. They don't want to waste their time towards a failure. So reach out to people, be transparent, and remember, I really think you're brave for taking on the office of treasurer.
Awesome. So one final question, just kind of wrap things up for this morning. And I told you ahead of time, I say my last question is going to be kind of a personal question. So it's not as bad as you think, actually. So you are probably the most well-liked person in LP Texas. And there's a book, especially in libertarian circles, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And a lot of people point to that as their inspiration for how to interact and how to win people over. Specifically, what I want to ask you is there someone else in the libertarian movement that you look to as inspiration for how to win people over? Because you've obviously done a great job. And is there somebody else that you look to for inspiration?
Well, the first person that comes to mind is Whitney Billieu.
Okay.
I mean, I know that with her last term, a lot of people, just because of the offices that she held, she became the center of controversy and stuff like that. But she has always, like, from the get-go, since I've known her, she's remained principled and neutral in most decisions. And she speaks up when she needs to, but she's very confident and firm. But she's one of those few libertarians who's never been ugly. She's never ugly towards people, even if they're ugly towards her. She's so solid and likable and lovable. And when you get to know her, you're like, you want to be around her. You want to be around her all the time. You seek her advice. And I have been. Like, we've had breakfast. I think there was one of the first times when we had this term, we had breakfast and we sat there for 3 hours. And not only did we talk about, why we did what we did and running for office, but, our personal lives too, and how that, how our roles were going to affect that. She's somebody I absolutely look up to. Absolutely. I look up to.
It's amazing how when you get to know somebody on a personal level, some of those other differences, they don't seem so hard to overcome anymore, does it?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So,
she's
Kate,
incredible.
I appreciate you taking time to chat with me this morning. It's been fun. And I know you've got a little trip coming up, so I wish you all the fun in the world on the trip. And thank you again. Congratulations on your win.
Oh, thanks, Nathan. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this next term, and I'm so excited that I get to do this term again with Whitney. So we're going to see some great things coming out from LP Texas.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Bye.